In this section, we're going to explore various different ways to hedge your trade or investment. Hedging is a way of locking in dollar value and minimizing downside risk and volatility. One simple example of hedging would be if you want to protect the value of your house from fire or floods, you can actually pay monthly dividends into an insurance plan. So that's one form of a simple hedge. With trading, there's various different ways you can hedge. So you can convert your trading account into cash just by selling whatever coin you have. If you're margin trading, let's say you're margin trading on a downtrend, instead of holding Bitcoin as a base collateral, you can hold cash. So that's one and the simplest way of hedging. But if you want something that's a little bit more crypto related, you can hedge into this cryptocurrency called Tether. And Tether is a crypto that is pegged to the value of the US dollar. And the benefit that this has is you don't necessarily have to keep those coins on an exchange. So you could actually keep them on your own wallet away from the exchange. So that kind of reduces counterparty risk versus cash, where there's a lot of counterparty risk. And then there's futures. So one traditional way of hedging is to buy futures contracts that are inversely correlated to your position. So we're going to show you how to do that in a bit. And then you could also do that with altcoins. And one of the benefits with finding things that are inversely correlated with altcoins is that you could actually store a lot of those offline on hardware wallets. And we're going to show you some that are inversely correlated. Now, correlation is basically tracks market movement, right? So a correlated market is a market that moves together. So for example, if a market was correlated with Bitcoin, it would move up with Bitcoin. Inversely correlated means Bitcoin goes up and that market goes down. And non-correlated means that it has no relation to that whatsoever. And then you could also do a traditional hedging through diversification. And that's a way of like mixing a portfolio. You can mix your crypto portfolio, and we'll show you various different ways that you can do that. So if you wanted to, let's say, hedge Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin through futures contracts, you can use this exchange called BitMEX. This is one of my favorite exchanges to use. And the interesting thing with BitMEX is that you can only deposit or withdraw Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the base collateral. Now, if you use no leverage on this and you shorted, that would be considered a synthetic USD hedge. So if I owned one Bitcoin and I shorted at, let's say, 998, there would be zero chance of liquidation because I'm not using leverage, and it would just lock in that dollar value, right? If the price of Bitcoin were to go up, then I would have that exact same dollar value. I would just have less Bitcoin. And if the price of Bitcoin were to go down when I want to cash out, I would have more Bitcoin equivalent to that dollar value. So this is what's called a synthetic hedge. And it's hedging through inverse correlation because shorting and holding Bitcoin as a base collateral means that you're taking an inverse position to what you're actually holding. Another way to hedge is through finding altcoins that are inversely correlated. So this is the Bitcoin market. And I use this little tool right here where you can compare various different markets together. So I'm comparing it against Ethereum. And as you can see, there is some inverse correlation. So the price of Bitcoin has been going up, Ethereum's been going down. There was one point where the price was very stable and Ethereum was going up. There are some periods of time where they were both correlated together, right around here. But for the most part, they've been inversely correlated. As you can see here, Bitcoin went up, Ethereum went down. So this is another way that you can be able to lock in value. If you see that Bitcoin's gone up a whole bunch, then perhaps you convert some of that and buy low into something else. And then if Bitcoin were to drop, the value of this would go up. And the most liquid markets, one of the reasons why they're inversely correlated is because the most liquid Ethereum market at the time of this video is paired against Bitcoin. Now, if you're going to create a crypto portfolio, you can hedge through diversification. So naturally, you don't necessarily want to put all your eggs in one basket. But when creating a crypto portfolio, it's generally better to have majority of the portfolio with larger market cap coins, because coins that have a larger market cap, such as Bitcoin or Ethereum, tend to be a lot more stable in value, right? So you want to have a mixed market caps and correlations. So have some that are inversely correlated, and you can use the charts that I showed, that tool that I showed, to be able to look at correlation. Ones that are correlated together, and then ones that are non-correlated together. So have a mix, and have a mix of different market caps, but you want a position size based on liquidity. So Bitcoin generally makes up the majority of my crypto portfolio, things like Bitcoin, and then something else like Ethereum's usually a solid number 2, or at least at the time I'm making this video, because there's a lot of liquidity. So you can have larger positions, and if you ever needed to liquidate those positions, you'd minimize your slippage. Whereas if you had the majority of your portfolio size in a completely illiquid coin, you would get wrecked on slippage, and it would be very, very hard to get out of it. And also, there's a lot more volatility in those smaller cap coins. That said, smaller cap coins can have some more upside potential as far as price games. So if you buy low, it could be worth mixing some up in your portfolio. And then in order to grow that portfolio and diversification, you always want to make sure that you sell into strength, right? So whenever you see a market rallying really strong, that's generally a good time to lock in profit. You know, if you see a market going up 100, 200, 300%, some of them go 10x, right? You can start scaling out along the way and locking in, and then take those profits and find some other cryptocurrencies to be able to diversify, and ones that are low, because the name of the game is to buy low and sell high. And that's how you can grow your crypto portfolio. So that's it for this section, and I'll see you in the next.